Back from our executive session that we will be taking action out later in the meeting. And so, when we come down to our attorney, we will adjust that. So I want to welcome. Okay. Well, I got a suggestion from Commissioner Parnell, and I'll accept that. Is we're going to go ahead and move that to the front so that the attorney can be on her way. Sorry, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. This resolution comes out of our executive session that we just had. It proposes for the county commission chairman to be authorized to sign on and execute settlement agreements in the pharmaceutical opioid litigation, and to execute the sign-on agreement and the settlement agreement. Settlement being an approximate amount of $87,000 less fees and expenses. That is a part of a statewide settlement that is being agreed to with the Attorney General, leading the way along with all cities and counties in the state.
I hate to be repetitive, but you did say the opioids, right?
Yeah,
We just cut your mic on, so I'm sorry.
Yes.
But anyhow, yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. Can I get a?
I'll make that motion
got
as
a
read by
motion?
the attorney. Correct.
I'll make a second.
Got a motion, Commissioner Mims, and a second, Commissioner Parnell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, moving on down to consent agenda. Y'all can read the consent agenda. We got the claims list.
I move we approve the consent
Let me
agenda.
finish reading if you don't.
Oh,
I was asked to read it down there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The minutes, and then I'll accept that, Mr. Williams. Thank you. The minutes, the claims list, personnel, reclassification of Tiffany Edwards, pay increase as noted from Terry Hinton, jail repairs, approval of payment for plumbing, and donation of time from Mr. Everson to Miss Miranda Ackerman for COVID relief. Can I get a motion, Mr. Williams?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
I got a motion for Mr. Williams and a second, Mr. Mims. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I have come down to public comments. I'd like to ask Mr. Billy Singleton to come to the podium. Make sure we got your mic on and we're ready. How you doing, Councilman Singleton?
I'm good, sir. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for allowing me to appear tonight, and I'll be very brief. As I mentioned to you in the work session last week, I'm here representing the USS Chilton Association and our Chilton County Chamber of Commerce. As I mentioned to you last week, I won't go into the history again, but the USS Chilton served this country faithfully for more than 30 years, beginning in 1943 in the invasion of Okinawa, one of the most fierce naval battles during the war. And the Chilton Association, that ship, July 1st of this year, will have been decommissioned 50 years. And as you can imagine, the Chilton Association, the membership's dwindling very rapidly. And so they reached out to me because I was involved with bringing the commissioning bell here. And I would add again that we get quite a few visitors. A few months ago, we had a family drive all the way from Iowa just to see that display. And so they reached out to me to ask what we may be able to do to memorialize the ship and its crew. And I suggested to them that we do a historic marker, much as we have for Chilton County on the west side of the courthouse. And so they agreed, and they will pay for this 100%. We just are asking your permission to place that marker on the grounds of the courthouse as an effort to memorialize the sacrifices of the crew, and they insisted that we also include the patriotism of the people of Chilton County.
Okay. We got a motion, Mr. Mims, second, Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
All right. Moving on down to staff reports, Ms. Sylvia Singleton, our county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask for a resolution to close the IDA nominations, as this is the third meeting. We have 2 nominations thus far, Jason Calhoun and Jacqueline Sullivan.
Do we have any further nominations? Okay.
Move to close the nominations for
Got a-
IDA.
Got a motion, Mr. Williams, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Headley. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're gonna do this in alphabetical order.
Could I, if you would indulge me, I don't think most of y'all know Jacqueline Sullivan. And I asked her here tonight so she could introduce herself to y'all. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. How you doing, Miss Jacqueline?
I'm doing well. How are you?
With the Board of Education, is that correct?
I am.
That's right.
Yes,
Retired educator.
That's
the
right.
reason I nominated Ms. Sullivan is we don't have anybody on, and they representing education on the IDA. That was the reason I nominated her. Plus, she's from Maplesville. And right now, Maplesville only has one representative, and that would be the mayor, W.C. Hayes. And she's retired. She's very qualified. And I think she'd be an asset to the IDA.
Anything else? Anybody have questions? Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'm going to ask that we vote on these two names in alphabetical order for the nomination for IDA Representative, Mr. Jason Calhoun. All in favor, say aye and show them by hand. Aye. Those opposed? None. I mean, those opposed?
You don't do it that way.
I'm sorry.
You got to take her vote. It's not an opposition vote.
Okay.
For her. for
I'm
him.
sorry. I'm sorry. It ain't no opposed. You're right. Thank you. I'm too used to doing the resolutions. And no, now we have a Miss Williams nominated, Miss Jacqueline Sullivan. All in favor, say aye. Mr. Williams showed that Mr. Williams voted. Mr. Calhoun has the vote, so he will be, I asked for, he will be appointed to the IDA. Next.
I'd like to ask for a resolution to close the Central Alabama Wellness Board nominations.
Do we-
It says second, it actually should be third meeting. Thus far, we have Miss Jenna Watley.
I'll make a resolution to close the nominations for the Central Alabama Wellness Board.
Second.
Before we close any discussion, do we have any other nominations? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor to close, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, so we need to vote on Miss Jenna Watley to be, I guess she's the only nomination. We have to vote on her else. Let's vote on Miss Jenna Watley to be the representative for the Central Alabama Wellness Board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Show of hands, thank you. All in favor? Motion carries.
Did we have a motion on
Yeah, we did.
that? To appoint?
I made a motion.
Joseph made a motion.
And who seconded
I'll
it?
second.
Matt seconded.
Thank you. Neither one of us had that.
Okay.
Sorry. we
Thank
were too
you.
quiet.
That's
I
all
thought
I
I was
have,
doing
Mr.
good
Chairman.
tonight. I just run through that like
It's all right.
yeah, man, thank you, Mr. Williams, and everybody for keeping me straight. All right, anything else, Miss Sylvia? Coming down to staff reports, I'm gonna table waste management for now, okay? Is that okay? We need to table that for now, okay? I need a resolution. This is, we got a bid from Republic Services for Nuki Park at the request of our park director up there. And so I'm gonna ask that we got a contract from them. I showed y'all on Tuesday night. We're actually gonna go with the option of picking up twice a week there, because in these summer months and when they get packed, he's probably gonna need it twice a week. I'm working on some other things for the courthouse, the Higgins Ferry, and other buildings that we have. So, but right now, this is the only one we can get on that northern end division. So it makes sense. So, I'm asking for a resolution to pass this, for permission to sign this contract.
I'll make a resolution to enter into a contract with Republic Services and for the chairman to sign it.
Second.
Got a motion, second, Joe Headley. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The next thing is what I've added on our agenda today, that we had some discussion, several work sessions and meetings about our courthouse roof. We, our engineer, Tony Warren, worked diligently on this, trying to get a feasible, price to get this done, and we need to get it done. We don't want to put another patch on this courthouse because we're looking at plans to either build or buy. And, but we have to get this water problem under control. We just spent thousands of dollars on the top floor, putting new flooring in the judge's office and the library and all the state's offices up there. We've already done Glenn McGriff's office. So we need to put this debate to rest. So I'm asking for a resolution to approve a bid for me to sign for Chilton, for roofing solutions for the amount of $155,000, lowest bidder. Actually, it was negotiated down to $155,875, and that will be coming out of building and will that be coming out of building road and bridge or that capital investment? Capital improvement. I'm sorry, capital improvement.
I move we accept the negotiation for roof repair.
Got a motion, Mr. Williams, second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Any discussion?
I will just say publicly that it hurts my soul to continue to spend all this money on this building.
We all feel the
You
same
gotta
way.
keep yourself dry.
So we all feel the same way. So, Mr. Have you had a chance to look at any of this? Mr. Bates, of this last proposal we got on the roof?
No.
Okay. Well, I'd like to amend your resolution at the approval of our attorney at the
I'll offer you an amendment.
amendment.
You can't amend the resolution. I move to amend the motion to accept it
Accept it.
pending attorney's approval.
Okay,
I'll amend my second.
thank you. Any further discussion?
You can't do that.
Excuse me?
You have to approve the amendment, then you approve the amended motion. You can't amend the motion and amend the
That's
second.
right. Okay, so let's just do this. I'm asking for a resolution.
I just made you an amendment
Okay, so
to the motion.
to the motion, thank you.
Yeah. You need a second.
He seconded.
Okay, then we vote on the amendment.
That's right. Okay, can we vote on the amendment? All
Oh,
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, we need to approve the motion,
Motion, that's right.
and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving right along.
so Jimmy, you may want to point out that there was a
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
considerable point of negotiation in that price.
Yes, it was.
And Tony did a great job and saved the taxpayers several $100,000 on renegotiating that price.
A long ways from where we were at one time. We're at the starting point down to the halfway point to where we at right now.
Nearly 300,000 second, wasn't it?
We was 400 something the second time, this, before we negotiated, I believe, and then we was way above that like 2 years ago above that. So at this day and time, I think that's so moving right along. How about, Mr. Kelly's not here, Mr. Bone,
No, sir.
Mr. Headley?
I'd just like to see if we can get our administrator or one of them girls in the office to look up. I think we got a resolution of a job description for our litter agent that we need to look at and be sure she's able to do what she's doing or whatever. Because they said it said something about she couldn't go on private property. Well, if she couldn't go on private property for these tires and stuff that they was dumping, our
That's
county-
state law. That ain't nothing to do with us.
Well, I'm just telling you, the litter
Okay.
control lady has been given the powers to do that.
Right. What I'm saying is the law is
I
that she
understand.
cannot go on private property and use county funds to do private work.
No, we ain't talking about private work. We're talking about county work.
We're talking about illegal dumps on
Yeah.
private property.
I know it, but again, if you take an employee and put them on private property, then you use tax dollars to do work on private property.
Let's just get them to look at resolution.
I
Of
will
when you
do that
read that law that's in that thing. I
and
think
let our
you'll
attorney
find
look
out
in that too.
She
'Cause-
definitely
Yes.
needs to know what.
Yeah, she needs to know what job she can do and what she can't. do.
Right. I agree
Just
with you.
clarification.
But
on
we
it.
went through this 3 years ago. It's the very same thing in this commission. The same thing. And we had it, we done the research. We'll do it again. Anything else, Mr. Headley?
That's all I can handle.
Mr. Mims,
No, sir.
Mr. Parnell?
All right, so we talked about this a little bit in our work session the other day. But the county has some debt. And I would like for us to, set aside a revenue stream to fund that debt and pay that debt off so that we can do things like build more roads and eventually build a courthouse and all those kinds of things. So Jimmy and I met with Miss Sylvia a couple of weeks ago for probably 2 hours, and Miss Sylvia's looked at the income streams and what we have that might match that. And the reason that I'm wanting to allocate a certain revenue stream toward debt service is I don't want that money to get pulled away from servicing debt through other mechanisms. So I would like for us to consider tonight that we allocate the SSUT tax that we're receiving. That's a simplified seller's use tax toward the retirement of debt. And guys, we first started receiving that in 2018. And the first year we received it, it was $257,000. And in 2021, we had $938, almost $939,000. And the way we're tracking this year, it's going to be slightly above that, but not much. But that is a good amount of money, and that's about what we have been allocating toward debt service. And it would help us to define a revenue stream solely for the sole purpose of debt retirement. So I'm offering a resolution tonight that we devote all the SSUT money that's received going forward to the retirement of debt.
So we have a motion. Mr. Mills made a second, open for discussion. Anybody have any questions? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Parnell?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Williams?
Yes, I didn't get a chance to sit down with Brock, so I can't make a recommendation on which of the laptops he got prices on for the disabled veterans office. But I would like to provide a resolution for the county to provide internet service for the disabled veterans office
And the fees to hook it up.
and fees to get it. Yeah, thank you.
I got a motion. Can we get a second?
Sir.
Any further discussion? Any discussion?
Who is the provider, Alan?
AT&T.
Is that the only option?
Yeah, that's it right now.
Any further discussion? If not, having none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The restroom at the tag office, I got each one of you a packet with the quote that Gene Foshee Construction got for us. And there's a layout as to where a picture of where the restroom would be. It will be outside the existing wall right now, but once it's built, it would be inside the tag office in the corner, which would be the northwest corner of the building. And he came back with a price that was a lot less than I expected it to be, what he's got to do in there. And I would like for y'all to look at this and consider this. And let's vote on this at our next meeting. Since I didn't have to get it to y'all until today,
I hate to make the assumption, but you just assume nowadays that everything's ADA compliant.
it is ADA. Yeah, all this is ADA compliant. When I
Is
went
this
over
unisex is what it is? Is it
Yeah.
male or
male
female?
or female,
Okay.
handicap,
Single,
wheelchair accessible.
Single, yeah.
Yeah.
This, it says on here, new plumbing to run through the basement wall to the rear of the building. Is that hooking it in
Yeah.
to the sewer and everything?
Yeah,
too,
that's
or just-
tying, that's completely tying everything in this contract. That's assuming it may have to have a pump. We're not sure about the fall and where you're
Right,
gonna
yeah.
get into the sewer
Right.
line, but may have to have a pump, and it's an additional $5,000 cost for the pump. So maybe y'all can look at that, and we can discuss that in detail.
Won't you bring this to our next work session also?
I
Let's
am.
bring it in. Okay.
Yeah.
That way you can ask all the other questions, because I got a few myself, I mean, just one or two myself.
Yeah.
And I'll look over it and maybe answer them in there.
Okay.
All right, next thing, Mr.
Yeah,
William?
I had, and I know it's overlooked, the broadband. I know broadband's been discussed down in Montgomery highly this last couple of weeks with the legislature divvying up that money. And I know the IDA has done a survey, and I didn't know if y'all been involved in Montgomery with what we're gonna be able to get out of this or not.
Mr. Kane, could you come forward and represent the IDA, please?
Really, that survey that you're talking about, I've got a copy of it. We wrong way. The county did a feasibility study,
Mhm.
and it was reading over that thing. I was looking through here, and one third of Chilton County has no internet. It says we got 55% of the population only gets one server. And so basically we're limited to, like the population of only 85% of our people do not have internet, adequate internet. They have internet, but they don't have adequate internet. So that's part of that study that you're talking about, Alan.
Yeah, what I was asking, do you know anything definitely has come out of Montgomery in the last 2 weeks as to how this broadband money, that 584 million is going to be split up?
We don't know. They've not released that yet. I know Roger's got some stuff that he's going to bring back to y'all later on to talk about on this stuff. But right now, they've not released how it's going to be released. There's $273 million that's going to go to broadband. And I can assure you our grant writer is already working on it. She's already looking into it. She's already contacted. And Whitney, the reason Whitney's not here tonight, she had surgery today. And some minor surgery, so that's the reason why she's not here tonight. She'd already notified the office.
Well, I knew that, the study y'all had done and ought to put us a leg up on some of the other counties around the state. And I know Central Access is going to install it for their local customers first. I mean, that's just a given.
Well,
They're going to do that. I just want to know where we could fit in this plan so we can get our internet service going.
there's going to be some, and I can't talk about it because it's legislative stuff that's got to get taken care of first. And I think some of it is changing some of the amendments and Constitution stuff, but they're taking that completely out of this special session. It's going to come up in the regular session. So that's something that we got to wait to see. But I can assure you, Alan, our IDA is working. IDA is already contacted through the IDA state office. They've already sent us some letters telling how they're trying to get the money split down. So we're going to be working after our part of it.
Mr. Caton, I think our attorney can address this too, if Mr. Williams
Yeah,
allow
that's
that.
fine.
Let me just kind of catch y'all up. There's been a lot of things that even happened since last Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
When we were here discussing this briefly. There was a move last week when they went into special session to have two bills introduced, which were designed to bring about a constitutional amendment that would allow cities and counties to use these CARES Act dollars that are coming through this allocation process to supplement with a private provider. We are constitutionally prohibited from doing that today. Joseph and I and IDA folks, I don't even remember who all was there now, we had a very extensive meeting with these good folks last year, even before this latest plan came to the legislature. And they are looking for, frankly, joint county participation with them, meaning put money in the deal. They will say, the private providers, that there's not enough households, particularly in rural locations, to give them the return on investment that would qualify them to put this on the, a priority item for the build out. There's also been supply chain problems for them in obtaining the cabling. And so getting in the queue with them, as they call it, is a serious issue. They won't put you in the queue until you have cut a deal and made a deposit. So one of the problems that the counties and cities have run into with all the attention on broadband is how do we get public dollars invested into a private business as a joint venture partner to have the build out that it's going to take to service the areas that this study indicated were the underserved or not served. We have some that have a little bit, but not much, and then we have some that don't have anything. So this plan that went before the legislature in the special session, and it was led by the County Commission Association, Sonny Bradshaw, and his group, on behalf of all of us, to push the legislature to adopt these constitutional amendments in the special session, which would have allowed them to then be put on the May primary election ballot as constitutional amendments. In order to get to a ballot, a constitutional amendment has to be passed a minimum of 3 months before it goes on an electoral ballot, which means it needed to be done this month. As of today, those two bills were kicked out of the special session. So we're not going to make it. It's very obvious we're not going to make it. They will go into the regular session, so there's still an opportunity for those bills, those constitutional amendments to pass that would allow the broadband investment by a city and county with your CARES Act or American Rescue Plan Act funds. But it would be a November general election before that constitutional amendment can be back up for a vote of the people. So that pushes us further down the road. So I think the legislature saw that those two bills were not in the governor's call. And so because they were so focused on the prison situation, primarily $772 million of that money, they chose to, I guess, deep six these two bills to Sonny's disappointment, because he knew if they didn't get out this week, and they're going to end the session, the special session on Thursday, is what it appears. So if these bills don't get out and they were withdrawn essentially by the act of the Senate today, then this is all going to carry over into the regular session. What I would suggest for you is that you get in touch with your local delegation and make sure your senators and House members know that you desire this constitutional amendment and help them sell it. There are a lot of different people have interest in the outcome of something like that. But if we can get the constitutional amendment, we can still play, because we have a December 24 deadline now for the expenditure of some of this money. So we've still got time. In the latest rounds, they extended those deadlines, and so we've still got time, but it's gonna shrink it. And to your point, those folks who already have a study, if they get a deal worked out with a provider, they're gonna be some of the first people who can run into ADECA and pursue those grants.
So Roger, just trying to tie these points together. We have a bill that was passed sometime in the 1980s in Chilton County that mirrors what 772 does now. And I think you've read that. But it gives our county the authority to move forward with things like giving a grant to a private company. It was legislatively passed and given to our county. There are some specific points in that law that deals with telecommunications, and I'm not bright enough and don't know enough about the law to know how that affects us. But there's a chance that we may qualify without the constitutional amendment if the state would use us as a conduit, that we could go ahead and get some of that appropriated money and maybe get to the front of the queue. What do you think?
No, I think that's possible. Some cities and counties have not wanted to use that process because it requires all kinds of public notices and public hearings, and there's a citizenry all involved.
The 772 process?
So, but we have looked at those things. Frankly, I think everybody got so sidetracked over the CARES Act application to all this. No resolutions have come from it. Fillmore County was probably as advanced in that process at that time as anybody we talked to. But I don't think that they've completely signed there yet. So I think, here's what I'll say about it. If you want to do it, then we need to commit the time and the resources to try to do it. If we don't get focused on it, it's not gonna get done.
We don't have a plan.
We don't have a plan.
Yeah.
We
got
got
a
a
short
study
window.
that tells us
Short
what the
window.
need is, but we've got to decide, for example, what do we want to buy? How much are we willing to buy? One of the questions that Joseph and I got last year when we had this meeting was, well, if you're gonna put $1 million in, we can build this much. If you're gonna put $8 million in, we can build this much. So at some point, the body has to decide, if you're gonna use these American Rescue Recovery Act funds, how much of it are you willing to dedicate to broadband expansion? And then that's gonna drive the scope of work that you can invest in with a venture partner. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've had some federal money was appropriated in the last spending bill to go toward rural internet. And I think we need to explore what that's going to be before we allocate our CARES money toward it. And that's kind of been what we've been doing, is dragging our feet to see how the federal money worked out and how the state money worked out before we spend our local money, because there's a thirst here for that local money to be spent other ways.
Well, let me answer that. As you know, we had an interim treasury rule that guided us on what we could and could not do with the Rescue Act funds. Prior to the final ruling coming out a couple of weeks ago, you couldn't spend any of that money on governmental services unless you met the revenue reduction thresholds.
Mm-hmm.
The big news of the final revenue ruling is that no longer exists. So you can opt, if you've got less than $10 million, then you can just claim that sort of exemption amount, and you go spend your $10 million. I won't say however you want to, but it's very liberally construed now. So governmental services could be a lot of things now that it couldn't be before. So I'll just pitch this out there. If you spend all your CARES Act money on a courthouse, then you wouldn't have any money for broadband. If you divide it up, then you get a little bit of one, not enough that you really finish anything. So those are policy decisions for the body to make. I'm not suggesting either way how you want to do that. I know you've got a finite number of dollars.
Right.
And so the establishment of the priorities of that spending is within your pleasure, your domain. So you dictate how you want to do that, then yours truly begins a process of figuring out how to put those pieces together to contractually, and I would say there's a lady that works at the IDA as their grant writer, y'all met her here before, who is second to none all over the state and how to tap those monies. And I think we need to get her engaged with our group and build the best plan possible if we want to go after those grant funds. I think there's probably already underway some movement to go after some of the sewer and water money. That's another bucket. But if it's broadband versus something else, at some point, she said, I can say this, you don't need to pay me to spin wheels over ideas.
I got you.
You need to pay me to go execute what it is you want to do.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Work
Now,
for
I'm
me.
happy for you to pay me, more and more,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to be.
Results, yeah.
I'm not. I appreciate you, but I'm not.
That's,
Well, I know you're not sharing that with.
Several times.
I do appreciate it.
On a weekly basis, don't I?
Roger, that's how they plan on spending that money.
Yeah, well, that's
Well,
what they're down there.
If I may, I got a question from Miss Jacqueline, and she is here, if she don't mind, because she is a member of the Board of Education. Have y'all had discussion about this? Broadband in y'all's meetings are about, because the uncertainty of children being educated in school because of COVID and stuff in the future? Okay, I didn't know. I mentioned that earlier to this group here. I don't know if y'all remember that maybe we looking at broadband to talk with the Board of Education. Say, hey, this is going to benefit the kids as much as our citizens. And I know y'all had to stage school buses all over this county just to have internet service so Chromebooks could work. Is that correct? So that would limit, I mean, that was that was a good fix, but it wasn't it was a fix, but not a good fix. And you could get on, you got on, right? Most of them did, is that correct? But something solid would be more than trying to take them buses and stage them everywhere to make sure our kids, especially in the rural area, these rural areas that don't have any. I mean, you may have a little bit, but the way I hear, some people don't have any. And if you do, you don't have enough because sometimes you have to do downloads and stuff like that. It's correct. So thank you. Thank you for your input.
You're right, and even in the rural areas, they don't have any.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Jimmy, if you will, I've contended since day one that this issue that we have with internet becomes a civil rights issue. If you'll read the civil rights litigation, the biggest part of that says that every child is afforded an equal opportunity to education. And when you have kids in rural areas who don't have internet, and schools are sending them home over and over and over for COVID and COVID exposure and all those kinds of things, these kids do not have an equal opportunity at education. And I think that's where the federal government has gone. That's why these dollars are being allocated. And I think that's why we need our grant writer working overtime for us now, because there's money out there. And I would love to see us be able to work out some kind of joint application with the Board of Education outlining the problem that we have and how many unserviced and underserviced kids we have. And y'all all probably know this, but I don't know that the public does. But a big part of that feasibility study was done by the Board of Education. It was done during the period of time when school was out because of COVID, and they had all of their IT people that were basically twiddling their thumbs. And Superintendent Jason Griffin put those people in charge of going out and accumulating a lot of the data that's used into this feasibility study. It would have cost us exponentially to get it, and he used their internal people to do that. And they did the call in and the survey of the families and the Facebook, where you could log in and answer the questions and all. But that data, a lot of that data we have was a joint venture with the board, and we couldn't have gotten it as affordably as what we did without the board's participation.
That's why my whole point was that we need to jointly, hopefully, work with them to try to get as much broadband money, federal government money we can.
So
I'd like to say
in other
too,
words, Mr. Kate, nothing came out of Montgomery that's going to be beneficial to us today for broadband. If it happens,
yet.
it's going to happen in a regular session.
Now, also, you said something about a plan. We do, back in March of last year, we did a project analysis,
Oh, yeah.
which goes through.
Oh, that's not the plan I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was talking about a plan to get
To
that
get the
point
funding.
right there.
To get the funding.
Yeah.
But we have
Yeah.
got a plan.
Yeah.
Once we get the funds, how we can spend them and where they need to be spent at.
Commissioner Haley, you got something?
Yeah, I just like to not to forget Central Alabama Electric, because they I think work in about 10 counties, and man,
Yes.
before they started doing broadband, I mean it was really really bad.
Yes.
It's got a lot better.
Oh,
Thanks
that's what I
to
was
them.
talking about with
So,
central access.
Yeah.
If you blessed enough to
Yeah,
get it,
that's
Yeah.
you'll be glad you got it.
that's right.
Blessed enough to
It
get it.
really works good.
We won't have a raise of hand. We will not have a raise of hands who's got central internet in here. But we will not have a raise of hands. Well, we miss. Look in the back. Can you say it for the people in the back?
Now on to my next. point.
Okay.
My next point, Mr. Keaton. Do you have an update on the 200 project?
All right, 200. We're still working with the same two prospects that we've been working with all along. I hate to say it, but one of them has started looking at another one of our exits. We have sat down and had some good long talks with them where they may not come to 200. They definitely come into Chilton County. And I really, I don't care where they come as long as they come to the county, because they're going to bring a lot of work jobs to this county. But we're really, what we're really wanting and what we're waiting on is once this property is ours, then we can notify EDPA that we own it. We can notify Commerce that we own it, and they'll start marketing it for us. But as long as we don't own it, they're not going to do that. One of the main things that we're going to push forward too is there's $225 million in this COVID money that's going to go to water and sewage. Hopefully, and we're checking on this, we may be able to apply for the money to pay the county's part of the EDA grant that we've already applied for. So there's a very good possibility that we can get that money. But something you need to really consider, y'all need to think about. 200 is the only exit in Chilton County that the county controls. All the other exits are controlled and owned by the cities. 200 is the only one that we own.
Was that sewage treatment plant, was that part of the discussion when y'all were looking at that 62.71 acres down there?
Originally?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Was there any thought given to that property right below it, which could have been bought a lot cheaper for a sewage treatment plant? Because that's not the most feasible site down there for a sewage treatment facility.
There's another piece of property that's available that we could use the property that we're wanting strictly for commercial usage.
Is that 17 acres just south of it?
Joseph, you know.
I do, but we don't need to discuss that in a meeting. The
Yeah,
price will
I
go
know.
up on that land down there. We'll
It's
be
already
paying.
gonna go up.
I
We've given
agree.
$13,000 an acre for it. It's gonna go
Well,
up.
whether we give 13 or $100,000, we're trying to let's clear something up. I want to be sure we clear this up tonight. We are investing in property for future development of this county. And if you do not invest money, you do not make money. Anybody who's got a business mind knows that. We know that we got to have sewer for this development. And the sewer that we're talking about is going to be
Point of
for,
order, Mr. Chairman. This is my section. I didn't give you permission to speak. We've already been down that rabbit hole. You say it was or was not in part of the original discussion to buy this property?
Was not.
It was not. So if it was built, if it was going to buy it and you want to have a sewer system, why wasn't it part of the discussion?
We didn't, at that time, that probably wasn't available.
Was there a site assessment done on this property?
The property we've got,
Yeah, that's 62 acres.
that I can't answer.
So you don't know if there was anything done to tell us that property was going to be feasible for a distribution center, a plant,
Yes.
hotel or
yes,
anything?
there
That's
was
what I
that-
mean.
That study was done. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what
That
I'm
study
talking
was
about.
done.
So it did pass
Yes, sir.
that. Was there an appraisal done on this property?
No, sir.
No appraisal. So how'd you arrive at the price we gave for giving for it?
That's the price that the people were asking for.
So nothing was done, a comparative price of the properties adjoining it or what this property sold for 3 years ago?
No, sir.
So we're giving 13,000 an acre for land that was purchased 3 years prior to that for $2,000 an acre.
Well, that's
And
Not
the
a
county
hundred-
paid $2,000 an acre for
at the
67
time.
acres
At the time
adjoining.
that property was purchased, it was purchased as a large quantity. There was like several hundred acres of land purchased at one time.
On that piece of property?
Yes, sir.
Not according to
The
the deeds.
original, when it was originally purchased,
I'm talking about from the person, this Sun Belt of Alabama, that we're buying it from.
I mean, I don't know what Sunbelt paid for.
Sun Belt paid $150,000 for it. And we paid virtually the same amount of money for the 67 acres that we own up near REA, according to the courthouse records. Normally, when you buy a piece of land, you know, if you can't get a fair price, you look at the properties that sold around it,
The
and
property
you
up
average
at,
them.
the REA property, we didn't pay nothing for that. That was donated to us.
According to the
That was
deed.
put in our, that was put in our name. That was put in our name in order to us to market it.
That's why I qualified according to courthouse records. That's basically the same amount of money.
That property actually, it's in IDA's name, but it actually still, it still belongs to REA.
Okay, so we paid for it based on that's all I've been asking, and that's what I was asked this past week about that piece of property. So I'm passing those questions on.
We paid the asking price for it.
Okay, you've answered it. I move we adjourn.
No, I'm not done. I'm gonna have a say-so now. Again, I'm gonna say this with respect for Mr. Williams. I'm sorry for interrupting you. But we want to make it clear that we're investing in property to bring jobs and economic development to this community. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's your own personal opinion. But I want the people to know the truth about what we're doing. Not that you're not telling the truth, okay? So let's make that clear. That we have to invest to make money. Anybody in business knows that, what I was saying a while ago. This commission as a whole has agreed to buy that property. I don't know if you voted for it or not. You may have voted against it. Okay, and that's your opinion. People elect us, elect you the same way to ask the question and do the due diligence. But I do know that if we could sit here and let everything grow up, develop around us, or we can do our part. I'm for doing our part, Mr. And Mr. Parnell, you have something?
I do. I want to make one comment, just for some clarification, because some things that I've been asked. When we're talking about, unless there's something that I don't know about, and I think I've been in every meeting pertaining to that with this commission, we're not discussing building a sewage system like the city of Jemison has or the city of Clanton has. So when you're talking about a distribution warehouse that could potentially employ up to 600 people, a traditional septic tank won't handle that many people. So what we're talking about when we're talking about building a sewage system is we're talking about a micro sewage system that would treat a facility or a complex that would be 300 to 600 people, not for the county or the south end of the county or for the city of Verbena. It's not. It is for that complex. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about. A traditional sewage system will not treat the amount of waste that comes out of a 300 to 600 employee facility.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make a correction.
Yeah.
We did not give the asking price. We negotiated that price down. They were asking quite a bit more for that property than what we give for it. And we negotiated it down to where we're at now.
And if I ain't mistaken, I think that can be actually added on if needed in the different phases to that sewer. Is that correct? If we decide to go another direction and add more commercial out there. There's a lot of people that has land out there that want to develop land, but why can't they develop it? What's the main reason? Sewer and water. Water and sewer. And I've actually got a meeting with the water department Thursday about their part in this. And I don't know exactly what we're meeting about. I do in a little bit about some funding they're going to be getting from water for Clean Waters Act that's coming out for the citizens out there, which will benefit them in that portion of the county. So, all right, you made a motion to adjourn. Yes, Matt made a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Thank you, guys.